Hello, my name is Whitney Barnard, and my pronouns are she, her. The journey that led me to apply for the role as the assistant director of the Multicultural Center, it really began when I was an undergrad myself. I was studying film, but I was very involved on my campuses, and I knew I wanted to pursue a career in education, but outside of the classroom. I wasn't really sure what that looked like at the time, being a first gen student. And so after I graduated, I actually had the opportunity to work for a contractor on a project for Array Alliance. This project was to create film based curriculums, and these were free curriculums that were based off of Ava DuVernay's limited series When They See Us, as well as her other films. And that really opened up my eyes to the different opportunities there are in education, as well as really understanding how embedded education is in our entire world. Like every sector is involved in education in some way. And that really expanded my mind. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit, and so that sort of stopped that trajectory with that consultant, but it did open up an opportunity for me to move to South Korea, which was enriching both personally and for my career. I lived in South Korea for 3 years, and in the last year, I taught at the University of Ulsan. Now, after my contract was over, I did feel like it was time for me to move back to the United States, and that's when I found the opportunity to work at Dominican University's Student Success Center. And since that role is not a 40-hour position, through some connections, I did learn about the Asian American Alliance of Marin and the different programming that they do, and they were looking for a part-time program director. And so that is where I am at now, is holding these two roles. As much as I love my students and I love the communities that I work in and with, I am looking for something that sort of meshes both of those worlds. And so when I saw the position for the assistant director at the MCC, I was very excited. I was like, this sounds exactly like what I would love to do. And so, yeah, that is how I ended up here. What really excites me about working with students in the Multicultural Center, one is the legacy. I do believe that legacy does affect how we interact with each other and with the space. And so for the MCC to have such a marked legacy within the campus, students are able to see where they fit in that timeline. And I do think we behave differently, right? When you can see and believe the things that I'm doing now are going to affect, the coming generations, I think that that's an amazing thing. Two, is the programming, particularly the Healing and Learning Garden, as well as the Trans Student Wellness Initiative. I believe the garden itself is such a beautiful way to reclaim something that has been used to oppress many communities. And so giving practical tools and knowledge and being connected to the earth, I think, is a beautiful thing to give students the opportunity to do. As well as the Trans Student Wellness Initiative, I strongly believe in being proactive and not reactive. And so providing trans students with the tools, the access, the community, the space to practice wellness for themselves and to be supported by the rest of the community, I think is majorly needed. And I don't think I can state that enough. In terms of challenges, I have primarily worked in smaller private institutions, and so I do think it'll be an opportunity of growth to learn a larger ecosystem that is UC Berkeley. And so I do anticipate that, but I think each institution is unique and different. And so taking the things that I've learned from these smaller schools and also being able to expand it and grow to a much larger student body, I think is something that I see could be a challenge, but also definitely an opportunity for growth, as well as navigating and learning how to balance the institutional procedures with the needs and the wants and of the student body, right? And so that's always a push and pull that comes when you work in higher ed. So that is, as far as the challenges, what I anticipate. So my experience working with students in co-curricular environments began when I was a student myself. Like I said, I was very involved as a student. And so when I was in community college, I was involved with our TRIO Journey program. When I transferred out, I was a resident advisor. I developed some queer programming, queer educational programming at a very conservative school. I wrote for the women's publication, and we distributed menstrual products for houseless folks in the LA and Orange County areas. I worked at my university's it's called the Mosaic Cultural Center, but also MCC, to help support the affinity groups as well as first gen celebrations and gatherings. Now, like I said, I work at the Asian American Alliance of Marin. There, I work with a team of 12 service learners from Dominican University, and they help me facilitate programming for senior citizen Asian Americans in Marin County. And so we have a group on Tuesday that is a Pan-Asian group, and they really, we put on programming based off of what they're interested in. And so we've done traditional Korean scarf dancing, we've done Qigong, we've done presentations on technology, Medicare, those sorts of things, and as well as oral history projects. And so that is one way that my students are sort of learning about this community that they are currently living in. Is to interview some of the seniors in our group. Our Thursday group is a predominantly Vietnamese speaking group, and this group is made up of Vietnamese seniors who are refugees and are still very much so dealing with the effects and the trauma from that. And so I work with a psychologist from Marin County. She's a bilingual Vietnamese psychologist, and we work together along with our service learners to develop programming that provides a communal space as well as a calming space. So we do arts, crafts, and we exercise as a way to help keep their bodies moving. We believe in whole body healing and restoration, and a part of that is helping and being involved with the students and seeing how they help foster community with them. Now, for the framework that I use in these areas, and I have used this even when I was teaching in the classroom, is a holistic, whole student approach. And so I know that a lot of instructors, parents will often say school comes first, like focus on school. But I do believe, there are so many things that do affect the whole student, right? And so they may be trying to focus on their courses, they may be trying to focus on grades and passing this test, but if this is the only thing that we're looking at and we're saying, why aren't you doing well? We might not be seeing that they have no sense of belonging in their community, right? They're disconnected. They may be a first-gen student, and so they don't actually have the context for how to build relationships with professors. They may be students who are immigrants or come from mixed status families and are dealing with other things at home right now, right, that we may not know. And so my educational approach has always been one of that is holistic, and with that has to come some humility of understanding I might not know everything that's going on, and how can I best support you as a student in achieving these goals, right? Passing your courses and being involved and being connected, as well as being a human being off of campus, right? What does that look like? And that is the framework that I have used in my life as an educator. So something that I feel is important to why I'm interested in this role particularly is that I myself am a multiracial, multicultural person. And so I am African American and Korean, and I was raised with both of these cultures and the ways that they clash and the ways that they mesh very well sometimes. And also being a person that straddles both of these groups, is hearing anti-Asian rhetoric from my Black family, hearing anti-Blackness from Asian people in my life, and sort of straddling both of those groups and saying, hey, what can be done here? Because oftentimes, right, we are struggling with the same things, and we are put in a system that is intentionally pitting us against each other. And so even in my personal life, this is something that I'm very passionate about. My family is multiracial. My extended family, very multiracial, interreligious marriages and family. And so it's been a really beautiful thing for me, I think, just coming into adulthood and getting to recognize and experience all of those things for the fullness that it brings in my life. And I find myself drawn to roles that allow me to explore that more. And so teaching in South Korea was one of those things where I learned so much from my students about aspects of my culture maybe that I didn't know, or that I knew, but I didn't understand why. And so being here back in the US, I knew I wanted to be in a space that allowed me to continue to develop and explore my own multicultural identity. And so with my hat in the Asian American Alliance of Marin, I'm a Korean woman, and my hat at the, at Dominican University, oftentimes, advocating for African American students and saying, like, what do you guys need as a very small minority on this campus, and how can I support you in that role? And so, again, like I said, I love both of my positions that I'm currently in, but I would love to move into a role that combines both of those things and allows me to pursue those passions in one role. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate being given this opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.